This is the Lydia and Spin with Lydia Lunch and Tim Dahl. Both of us at an odd exchange in Brooklyn for a moment.
Yes. And both of us traveling tomorrow. Fingers crossed, because as the world or the country knows, 19,000 flights have been canceled over the last week.
I think we're going to be fine, but terrifaction. I have to ask you, Tim.
Yes.
What is the strangest thing you've ever either had in your mouth or swallowed? Just think about that.
God.
Why don't you just think about it? Now, we know that pica is an eating behavior, which means, individuals who eat non-nutritious items.
Yep.
I didn't know there were so many different subtypes of pica. For instance, and we're going to talk about this in a minute, acuphagia, which is eating sharp objects. I don't mind having sharp objects in my mouth, but I don't swallow them all the way.
Right.
Amyophagia, laundry starch. We know what coprophagia is. We don't have to go into that.
Right.
There's one about eating burnt matches. There's foliophagia, leaves and grass. Geophagia, sand, clay, dirt. Lignophagia, wood, bark, and twigs. Lithophagia, stones and pebbles. Pagiophagia, ice and freezer frost.
Okay.
Plumbophagia, lead items. Tobaccophagia, cigarette butts or grand centrals, as I call them.
Nice.
And of course, trichophagia, which is hair. Well, recently in Turkey, a man during Burham Demar had to take his younger brother, to the hospital because he complained of abdominal pains. But the doctors were pretty amazed when they performed ultrasound and x-ray scans, and they discovered 233 items in the 35-year-old stomach. Now, usually these various picas, they start or they are in childhood. Children like to stick things in their mouth.
Right.
But in Mr. in Mr. Deemer's stomach, they found coins, batteries, magnets, nails, pieces of glass, stones, and screws. Now, during surgery, Dr. Benizzi said, well, we saw that one or two of the nails had passed through the stomach walls. And there were a few metal pieces and stones of different sizes in the large intestines. Now, they did manage to clean his stomach completely of batteries, magnets, nails, coins, pieces of glass, and screws. And trust me, the table that all of these are lying on is like an archaeological dig into something we've never seen before. And again, the doctor even said it's not a situation we often see in adults. It's mostly in childhood, but it can be seen in psychiatric patients, prisoners, or abuse cases in an adult age group. So anyway, it's the doctor, the brothers both said we thank the doctors for their attention.
Well, it's like all the stuff. It's like all the stuff that people put in their anuses. I guess people just like to put foreign objects inside of them.
Well,
what about adults that suck their thumbs still? Is that like
a form of comfort?
Yeah.
I've just got to follow it up with this, and this should be one of your stories, but I'm going to go right into it because it's also about eating. Well, recently found in the state we all despise pretty much the most, Florida. They found a Burmese python weighing 250 pounds and measuring nearly 18 feet long.
Whoa.
Now, the snake ate an entire deer and had 122 eggs inside its body. It's the largest ever to be found in the state.
Yeah, and these are all just, exotic animal collectors. They break out and inevitably, and of course, basically anything from Asia, when it's on another continent, it's going to dominate it. It's just that's just the way it goes. So yes, that's.
This snake is unbelievable.
18 feet. That's crazy.
They had to perform an operation on it just to see what was in it. But 122 proto eggs, the most ever found inside a python, and they hadn't been fertilized yet. But the white-tailed deer is the main prey for endangered Florida panthers. I didn't even know there were panthers.
Oh
in
yes,
Florida.
they're hard to find, but they're there. Yeah.
Obviously, but since 2000, the Florida Fish and Wildlife has killed or removed over 15,000 pythons, with over 1,000 removed every year beginning in 2017. And they have no idea how many thousands more there
thriving.
might be.
They're
thriving.
Yeah.
I mean, exactly. Well, they say that the female python's death was not in vain, as it will help researchers learn more about the creatures that have eluded scientists since arriving in the U.S. He continued to explain, that would be Dr. Main, that the pythons feast on 73 different species found in Florida: 24 mammals, 47 birds, 2 types of lizards, and occasionally a small dog or a man if they can get their mouth around it. Oh, my word. Anyway, what'd you have for lunch today?
Well, what I have for lunch today? Well, I mean, I can continue just the Florida animal thing.
You
where
certainly, carry on.
They are not naming the name, or they're not identifying anything really about this young 8-year-old who was fishing in Florida and caught a catfish, and the catfish kind of went nuts and stabbed the child in the chest with its barb, and there's venom.
Oh,
and
yes.
So basically, kid rushed to the hospital. They don't really know what's going to happen to him. He's might not live. I never even considered being attacked by the venom of a catfish.
No idea. Where does the venom reside in a catfish? Do we know?
Yeah. Hold on. Let me look this up.
Because some people eat catfish. Very tasty at a New Orleans kind of dine and grind.
Yeah, it's part of the spine. It's part of I don't know how the fuck it uses it. It's like the dorsal and pectoral fins in the spine, and it can unlock this kind of like spinal venom, and they have these glands, and it'll just like they use it as a defense. I didn't actually know that. I should have known that. I'm a little bummed I didn't.
Well, I was rather happy to see that those who sit wrongly on the Supreme Court are kind of getting a taste of their own medicine. The headline is protest at Amy Coney Island Barrett's home, blood and dolls, symbols of what's to come. As the decision over the fate of Roe versus Wade looms, pro-choice activists descended on the home of conservative Justice Amy Coney Barrett, dressed in blood-soaked clothing and holding dolls. The group, members of Rise Up for Abortion Rights, traveled to her house in Falls Church, Virginia. The blood on the crotch area of their clothing symbolizes forced births if Roe is overturned. Now, there have been other demonstrations at the home of other conservative justices, but really, is it going to make a difference?
No, not at all.
We are in the Middle Ages.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to. That was. I don't even know if I want this conversation.
I don't even want it. I mean, and if they leave it to the states, well, at least, not that I'll need one because it's a little late for that. But one thing is, at least I live in a state that appreciates a woman's right to control her own frickin' uterus.
Yes, but as we've discussed in previous episodes, I mean, they're just, when it comes to business and things like healthcare and all the stuff that you're gonna have states suing states for like businesses providing healthcare. It's so dumb, crazy.
We're really, I've left the country before because I couldn't stand what was happening, and I mean, not as if Canada for 2 days is going to solve my issues, but oh Christ, it's ridiculous.
Not as ridiculous as this.
Please,
Wrangler Hendricks.
Oh, what a great name. Wrangler Hendricks.
Yeah.
Love it.
Texas, young Texas boy.
Yep. What did he do?
Well, they're visiting family in Coolidge, Georgia, and the cousins are all excited and they're all running around the house and decide to play hide and seek. Well, Wrangler disappeared, and they're like, well, where did Wrangler go? And Wrangler managed to find a really good hide and seek spot in terms of just not being able to be found, but it was a deadly spot. It was he sandwiched himself between the washer and dryer and basically suffocated, and they couldn't find him anywhere. And then they called the authorities, and then Wrangler Hendricks was found there, losing the game. Let's put it that way.
Oh my!
I mean, suffocation it must be like really like the worst. I don't know. People always talk about like drowning or burning, but I don't know. Just suffocating like that.
I mean, what would be your preferable form of death?
Explosion.
Whose house? You don't answer.
Yeah. The dining room of my worst enemies.
Very, very good. Well, this is a subject very close to my own heart, or should I say ass, but a new study is the first to investigate brain connectivity patterns at rest in veterans with both chronic pain and trauma, finding 3 unique brain subtypes, potentially indicating high, medium, and low susceptibility to pain and trauma symptoms. And the findings are now providing an objective measurement of pain and trauma, and they could pave the way for personalized treatments and new therapies based on neural connectivity patterns. So, I mean, chronic pain and trauma do often co-occur. However, most previous research investigated them in isolation and using subjective measures like surveys, leading to obviously a very incomplete picture. But a new study in Frontiers in Pain Research, one of my favorite periodicals, has filled in some of the blanks. It found that these 3 unique brain connectivity signatures, they appear to indicate veteran susceptibility or resilience to pain and trauma, regardless of their diagnostic or combat history. So the study is it's under research, but it could, pave the way for more objective measurements of pain and trauma. But, chronic pain is a major public health concern, especially
it's getting worse
among veterans and, everybody else.
Was that guy who just killed all those doctors? He was in chronic back pain.
Yep.
They do the surgery and the pain's still there. So
exactly.
So I mean, and that's what I was asking you. So you're talking about physical pain and trauma. So you're talking about the psychological connection with physical pain.
Right. But I mean, it also goes back to the fact that, for instance, NASCAR drivers who are prepared to crash, they never get whiplash. But if you're in a low speed accident in a car going about 30 miles an hour, which is, I do believe, when my pain originated many, many decades ago, that then it's so shocking because you're not prepared for it. And that's why I think when they're examining veterans who are prepared for the possibility of losing a limb or their life, that there's something to be investigated here, because it really is about preparation and the acknowledgement that not only, we cannot understand that we're going to be traumatized as children, but maybe we all need to be prepared for the possibility of a bomb falling on our head and the pain that will then follow. Just saying.
I think back in the 70s or 80s, Norway had this whiplash epidemic, and the car accident stats were about similar to the ones in Estonia percentage wise. And so then there was I think it was a psychologist, a psychiatrist,
therapist,
some, but major, like a minister of this country basically said, well, this might be a kind of a mass hysteria, psychosomatic thing. And then people went nuts. They got all defensive, but he's like saying, no, I believe you that you're in pain. I'm not claiming you're not in pain, but there's just more things to it.
Well, I mean, and also, it's very hard. I mean, everybody has their own different kinds of pain, whether emotional, psychological, psychic, or physical. But it's very hard. And as we know, I mean, everybody has a unique relationship with pain, and most people have it in one form or another. And the thing is, I mean, it does help to be able to communicate it, but you can't describe your pain to somebody else. And who wants to? Nobody really wants to. But speaking of the king of pain, that would be our next guest on our 150, God knows whatever episode of the Lydian Spin, Jerry Stahl, whose new book, 999, is just absolutely fantastic. He'll be reading from it, and we'll be discussing it with him right now. This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, and Jerry Stahl. This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, and one of my favorite writers and readers, Jerry Stahl, reading from his new book, 999, which is out very soon. Jerry, thank you, and please treat me.
Yes. Thank you for having me. Here's from the opening of the book. It's called Introduction, Bus Plunge. Naked death camp tag. Who knew that would be a thing? I didn't until the breakthrough morning I opened my computer to find a must-see attachment in my Google Holocaust alert. The video shows a group of Polish citizens playing tag, naked, in a death camp gas chamber again. The whole thing is from an exhibition at Krakow's Museum of Contemporary Art called Auschwitz. The title feels a little on the nose, but maybe in Polish, it sounds a bit more festive. What do I know? Try to picture it. You'll have to. The video has been taken down. A dozen sets of pasty Polish asses, flapping testicles and breasts in full-on white people frolic, cutting loose in the Zyklon B room of the Stutthof camp in Poland, where I believe it was actually filmed with the full cooperation of the Polish government. It's shocking, or was, when I started this book back in the happy naivete of autumn 2016, when shocking was not yet as overused as unprecedented. Today, having completed this book in the plague year of 2022, a time of Holocaust cosplay and Camp Auschwitz t-shirts, it's hard not to look back on 2016 as a time of almost poignant innocence. 6 years on, we progressed to TikTok teens rocking fake burn scars and death camp threads, lip-syncing Bruno Mars and posing as Holocaust victims in heaven. Trauma porn, while Nazi accelerationists gush about the coronavirus as a gift to the Atomwaffen Division, the neo-Nazi fan club, itching to capitalize on societal collapse to make genocide great again, an opportunity to jumpstart final solution redux. By now, the bar for unthinkable has been raised so high that not much can slime its way over. Very fine people feels almost quaint. Had the Polish government invited Trump and let the videographer gas actual Jews, we would have been treated to the sight of the ex-president himself, gallivanting along with the locals, prancing front ass and scrotum free among the smoking corpses, which, if it didn't dip the needle into shock territory, might have at least provided an evening's japery for a Mar-a-Lago theme party. Or not. My beef with Trump is far more personal, far more petty than the whole destroying democracy and damning future generations thing. I blame the man for fucking up this book. Thanks to the white nationalist president, my long ago Donald V. Adolf hot takes feel as dated as distressed denim and LL Cool J, a big chunk of book rendered hokey by contempo history. On the plus side, it's all gravy if you're reading this while still walking upright, not felled by nuke fumes or clawing your ventilator in some tainted eternal COVID-19 induced solitude. The idea then, before we wrap up, why stay in this country listening to mere Proud Boy-esque neo-Nazis where you can go to the source, to Poland and Germany, and experience the birthplace of actual Nazis? How better to soak up fascist antibodies? The concept is to chronicle a sojourn through Poland, East Germany, and World War II, essentially a 2-week holiday in key hellholes and hotspots of 30s and 40s Europe, as assembled by the pros at Global Tours. Throughout this tour, promotional literature informs prospective clients, you'll visit some of the concentration camps used during World War II. You'll visit the most infamous Auschwitz and Birkenau, where you'll see chilling reminders of the Holocaust. It's hard not to hear the globule spiel in the voice of Don LaFontaine, the coming attractions. You'll thrill to the sight of actual ovens. And yes, I would be holocausting by bus. Thank you.
Well done. Wow.
Thank you. And the book is fantastic, and thank you for sharing it with me. And also, it's published by Akashic, who publish some of my books and do a great job publishing all kinds of noir and just great writers. But the book is just, I'm going to just describe it as hysterical, hilarious, historical, and kind of heartbreaking, because you had quite a few revelations, and how could you not, about your own depression when you're standing possibly on the graves of the uncountable dead.
Yeah, well, I always had this question, which maybe you can relate to, or maybe you won't, but I always wonder if, the guys and women who are rounded up and suddenly find themselves like, clawing for fucking breadcrumbs, starving and diseased, beaten. But I wonder at what point they stop worrying about the normal shit that people worry about, the shit I worry about, your life, your career, your future, your past, your fuck ups, just all the petty bullshit that eats away your brain like battery acid, or does mine.
It's great you bring this up, even like on a non just trying to survive and get by every day. One reason, at least I like touring, is that it takes me away from just the everyday, like spinning in circles. Like, what am I even fucking doing? But if I can touch hyper presence, and you're not going to touch it, you're not going to get closer when you're facing death than hyper presence. So I think that shit disappears pretty quickly. I think you are not swimming in your brain about the fucking bills you have to pay and just the shit that just arrives to your door that just sucks.
I also think that look, we've all been traumatized, and trauma is trauma, pain is pain. But when there's a collective mass of humanity being brutally traumatized at once, it's this bizarre kind of shock therapy that happens, almost like a stunning, like they become stunned. Because if you think that the prisoners or any war refugees outnumber, even if not with artillery, they outnumber in mass the people that are confining and killing them, it does become like an animal caught in the headlights who just freezes instead of fights.
Mm-hmm.
It's bizarre.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What do you think your reaction would be? How long before you just acclimated and took over your barracks?
Don't call me Ilsa now, Jerry. That's private talk between us.
Well, Lydia would have been one of those girls that somehow seduced a guard or gets a young Polish boy on the other side of the fence throwing little sandwiches. And Lydia's a survivor, so
yeah.
Well, we can all contemplate what we might have done, but fortunately, no matter how tragic this life makes us feel, we don't know. Even you going there and you absorbing, and you did write about it beautifully, did it kind of knock a lot of the bullshit out of you that bothers you daily? Or when you got back and then 6 years in the making of this book, you're not standing on hallowed ground every minute, even if you stood there, even if your great great grandparents were exterminated there. Do you know what I mean?
No, it definitely fucking wipes the bullshit out of your brain. And you're very conscious of the stupidity of the choice to stress all the bullshit that one stresses about in life. The stuff, Tim, you're talking about losing on tour, and yeah, it did its job, and horrifying as it was, it does have the purpose of like making you realize what the fuck is wrong with my brain.
Well, it makes me realize more so what the fuck is wrong with so many other men in positions of power historically forever, same as it ever was. The war is never fucking over. Here we are again, refugees by the millions and millions. I mean, when does this bullshit stop? And how could we not, traumatized by petty things or not, have that disease of victimization or brutalization in our fucking bloodlines?
Yeah. I guess one conclusion of many I came to is that, kind of like you say, I mean, the axe is always falling. The miracle is that there's any time between Holocausts, so be fucking grateful,
Exactly. So Jerry, describe a little bit, because so you went and did this journey, and then you came back and started writing. I know you do an incredible amount of research no matter what you're writing about. And of course, I always love how you or your experiences, because I prefer things that are not fiction, and you write from the balls. So you come back to do the book, and you realize that a lot of what obsesses us is bullshit, but then you have to be obsessed about writing the book. So I guess my question is, you're writing this book. It took quite a while. Do you feel relief when it's over, or is it just another kind of agitation?
Yeah, they're not mutually exclusive, but it's a particular, the kind of books I write. I always love the gonzo motherfuckers, who put themselves in situations like my journalism, if you want to call it that. I would do like a nude singles retreat at Elysium with a naked buffet with like your Italia and potato salad range, or I would do a rebirthing where I'm passed from like, some hairy guy named Irv trying to suckle me to some like buxom new ager, and just or a funeral this convention. I just put myself in these fucked up situations and then write about what it feels like to be in these fucked up situations, which is a great formula. But, obviously you don't do that with the Holocaust, but you do it when you're on a fucking bus full of total strangers, some of whom from the Midwest have never seen a Jew. And so really, that was almost in its own weird way, to be quite honest, that was horrifying in a whole other way. 19 strangers from the Midwest you're on a bus with, hotels. I'm on tour with these like, and that was.
And who exactly takes a Holocaust tour? I mean, that's the weird
well, there
thing.
is that, yeah.
I mean, you took it researching, but then you're stuck with 19 Midwestern. Also,
I don't know, Lydia.
Also weirdos. Also weird. Yeah, but who decides they're in the Midwest? Older couple, 50s, 60s. Working class. Let's go. Let's go visit Auschwitz.
Yeah, well, Auschwitz is like what, an hour and a half from Krakow. I mean, if you're maybe Polish American. Yeah, I mean, I went to Auschwitz. I played a show in Katowice, and I told the promoter, I was like, you know what, I'm going to get up and go to this thing. And they're like, why? Why are you going to go? Say, well, you know what? Sometimes you got to look at stuff, even if it's bad.
Tim, you were in the Midwest working as a builder, and then decides to take their wife on.
It's fun, but it's funny you say that, because just like in like Okinawa, I was like, there's a lot of Americans that just like World War II history. And
yeah, there's a lot of that.
So I mean, who fucking knows? But yeah,
I don't look down on the people who did it. I mean, it's like Janet Malcolm said, all journalists are assassins. I'm there fucking murdering their character and sneaking into the tent at night. But the fact is, I kind of love these people for the fact they were doing this in some weird way. And they're like, we had to go around the room in some fucking sausage grotto our first night and say why we were doing this, And
you who does not allow sausage into your mouth for the most part.
Well, those days are over. I earn an honest living now. But yeah, so a lot of them had seen Schindler's List, and that was, they wanted to see like real, the real Jews. And more of the tourists were interested in seeing like where the stars stayed when they were shooting Schindler's List than actually see Schindler's Factory. I mean, you gotta love that, you just fucking have to.
Okay, so Jerry, back to your immersion theater of journalism.
I digress.
Yeah, I transgress all the time. So you have sought out as a journalistic endeavor to understand, to experience fully, and then to write about it. So you have the experience, you come back, you're going to write about it. I mean, then what about the hollow that forms after? Or do you fall into the hole while trying to relay it onto the page? It's one thing to go there and experience it. And I guess there's a difference. If you're writing an essay, you shouldn't really suffer that much. But I know you suffer when you write your books.
Well, I have a very weird way that I write. Basically, I just make not writing so painful and uncomfortable, traumatic, that the only thing worse than not writing, or better than, I write to relieve not writing, if that makes any sense.
I know that about
butcher that intro. That's what I tell the kids, when I go to speak at the writing conventions. Make yourself miserable, destroy your life, ruin your friends, betray everyone you know, and then you got a memoir,
So what are the do you give lectures at universities that often?
I do not. No, strangely enough, I'm not.
Interesting. Okay,
but I have guest taught, and I taught at a juvenile hall for violent offenders. And I did a thing at Auschwitz, listen to me, at San Quentin called San Quentin Film School, which you can actually track down. Somebody made a TV series of it. Okay. And that was fucking fascinating. I mean, I think the coolest, calmest, most centered people I ever met were like a couple of the guys doing life, and couldn't even remember what they did, because most people are drunk when they commit their fucking crimes and they're in a blackout, or a lot of them. And, as ever, I'm sure I got more out of it than they did.
I think it's so important. I mean, I only have a minor experience of giving one, workshop for homeless kids once in LA, or my From the Page to the Stage, writer's workshop. I think it's so important for people. Look, anybody can afford a pencil and a paper. It's so important for people out on the outside of everything to write their stories, even if it's only so they get it out of their head in this rotational cycle that happens.
No, I completely agree. It's like all the shit you'll take to your grave, it's fucking, it's material, it's like some weird gift, and not that I'm that guy, but you do help other people who see that you can survive that shit. Not that that's a primary motivator. But, I always tell people that, it's like, just fucking use it, and you never know. Everybody gets published these days. It's not like it used to be.
Well, I always tell people, you're going to have to at least speak at a funeral at one point. So you might as well learn how to occupy the stage. But I just think even if you write it down, and of course, women, especially young girls, totally journal because they do. I think it's just very important exercise to do, to just get it out of your head, and also to know, which is what I've been on the mountain preaching forever with a bullhorn, is you're not the only, you're not alone, and yours is not the worst. Mine was not the worst. Yours was not the worst. Yeah. There's so much extreme tentacles of brutality and trauma and tragedy, and you just have to find a way to find others who you can relate to, as you know very well, whether it's teaching a workshop or just talking to others. It has to be done.
Yeah, you kind of find out all our secrets are the fucking same anyway, and the shit you're taking to your grave is just, there's a zillion other people who have the same thing that happened, as and it is helpful. But on the other hand, as you're probably never in this situation, but when you're thrust into a bus or just a dining room of, like, I don't want to say normal people, because who the fuck's normal? Because, there's that great Don DeLillo line, the special grotesquerie of sane men leading normal lives, and but it's disconcerting. It's like, I got to be on best behavior, and no matter what, they're going to think I'm the weirdo of the fucking year after.
Well, Jerry, you are the weirdo, which is why I love you. But I have no problem blending in with so many different subsectors of society and humanity, because it's just part of my subterfuge.
Yeah, you have to be a chameleon,
So can Tim. I mean, Tim also has a way of maneuvering into many different level. I mean, people that you might never ever talk to except at that moment, because why not?
Well, you get inside, you get inside information that way. If you live in a fucking vacuum, you don't learn anything. You learn from fucking people that are very different than you, and it's amazing how people will open up. They'll really say their shit, and I
think especially to strangers sometimes.
Well, I mean, one advantage of taking, one way I take advantage of my white privilege is actually racists and fascists and bigots feel very comfortable unloading their shit right in front of me. I'm just like, keep it coming. And
then wait for the Timothy Seymour Dahl retribution rant.
Well, they're terrified. They're lonely. They're terrified. And they're the victims of themselves. They're losing, and it's tragic. Actually, they're fucking assholes.
I mean, prejudice really boils down to just very simple things like insecurity about oneself and one's place, and also just fear of other, because they have no respect or confidence in themselves because they haven't been given any. I mean, that's who becomes usually the prejudiced ones, whether it's racist or sexist or Well, classism is just the dominating factor anyway. I don't know how you break out of that because we are all below it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a different level though. I found, my grandfather used to have a saying, if you ever forget you're a Jew, a Gentile will remind you, and there's a different level to it. When you're in Poland or, you're in Berlin or you're in fucking Warsaw and you're just sitting in some shitbag cafe, when some like 85-year-old man is giving you like stink guy from across the room, it's hard not to believe that this guy was like bayoneting babies for like sport when he was like 19 in the Waffen SS, and that's where my mind goes. Like, he knows I'm a Jew. He's gonna fuck, and I go into this level of paranoia that I think is cellular, to tell you the truth.
It's
absolutely, absolutely.
Jerry, one of my close friends lives outside of Munich, and how old is he? He's pushing 70. But when I think about the 60s and American youth rebelling against their parents and in the streets of civil rights, I asked him, I go, Gunter, what was it like? I mean, how did you find peace? Your fucking parents and all your friends' parents were Nazis, and but you had to live with them. And he basically said, well, it wasn't discussed a lot. He did learn that his father was 19 years old, and his job was to sneak into Russian army camps and then slit their throats when they were sleeping in tents. And he killed about 25 people, and it ruined his life.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, how the fuck do you kill fucking 25 people and not have some? I mean,
well, they're trained to do a job.
Yes, but it comes back to haunt you.
Let's hope fucking so. This is the problem with, patriotism, like, or again, that the other, it must be annihilated, must be wrong. And this has not gone away. We still have it. I am so befuddled continually by the fact, same as it ever was,
absolutely.
It doesn't change.
There's actually a follow-up to this. So Gunter owned like a music shop, and there was a military American base near there. And there's one guy that played guitar, and he kind of befriended him. He's just this American guy. And then he got deployed to Iraq, and they're friends on Facebook. And all this guy's friends were like, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. And Gunter's like, no, like, this is nothing to be proud of. And then he got pounced on by all these fucking people who have been brainwashed that this is somehow a reasonable way to live. I mean, not to disrespect military and service, not to do that, but what the fuck?
Well, look, if poverty wasn't so rampant, poor young men wouldn't be bamboozled into becoming pawns of the government to go and kill other people. I mean, one of the reasons there's still a freaking military membership is that a lot of these young guys don't think there's any options, and then they think they're going to get all of these benefits, which they don't, and they can come back with brain damage and permanent PTSD, and there is no Veterans Administration to take care of them. And that's why the biggest population of homeless people in a lot of states are Vietnam and Iraqi veterans.
Yeah. Well, it's like Muhammad Ali said when they asked him why I wasn't fighting.
Oh, yeah.
White men sending black man to kill a yellow man, and there it is. How is your friend Gunter now? Is he around? He's still with us?
In Miracle. He had stage 3 pancreatic about 10 years ago, and it's gone.
Wow.
And it's gone. He actually beat it. So he's like in the 0.0001%.
Wow.
He's a great guy. He's an incredible human being.
So Jerry, do you ever have fun? What do you do for fun? I'm a fun-loving gal. I'm basically I
think of you and I think fun.
What do you think?
I think fun. What can I tell you? Yeah. Listen, I am perpetually surprised and slightly alarmed, to still be fucking above ground. So it's all gravy, it's all fucking gravy. So, that's my fun, not being dead. That's half the fun there is,
So what do you, last December when we were when I saw you last one in Southern California.
Yeah, it's a great show.
Thank you. I didn't see you again after that, but I had to go down to San Diego. I went to this legendary fish taco place, full on swastika tattoo neo-Nazis were in there eating at them, served by Mexicans, eating Mexican food. And I was like, I know fascist Nazis exist everywhere, but You don't see people that bold here in New York like that. Like, holy shit, these guys are fucking flashing these tats. I guess they went to prison. I don't know what was going on, but I was like, ugh. But,
Yeah,
but
I think Trump kind of freed him up. You know what I mean? Now it's all bets are off now.
Well, I'm always amazed because, of course, I brought this up and I had my dumb Trump commercial, and I don't let that orange ass clown get away with all the things he's gotten away with from every other form of government. But just the fact that his father was arrested in a KKK rally in 1920, is that not enough to go by?
Well, come on, look at fucking, Poppy Bush, Prescott.
Yeah, Prescott, exactly.
Prescott Bush was a fucking Nazi.
He's a Nazi.
Henry Ford got the fucking Iron Cross. I mean, it never ends.
The Senate had
fucking money, whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Look, the war is just a virus that men, specifically some men, get, which is based on stupidity, greed, and fear, and the need to dominate. And it goes around the world, never stopping. Same way that America's not been out of war except for 10 years of its fucking existence. It just possesses people. And I can't believe that they haven't found a better way, that they haven't progressed, that as the only animal that kills for sport, for fun, for domination, or to destroy whole countries, only so we can then build Hilton hotels there. I'm just astonished that this goes on. We see it every day. We see it now. It's still going on. And America's participation in it, fake as they do that they are not, with 800 military bases, is just astonishing to me. And also, I don't know why that with all the tricks and all of the other people we had befriended, dictators, and then we turned against and annihilated, we're not just getting rid of this frickin' ass clown on both sides of the divide.
He's going to be untouched. Actually, Jerry,
he's going in for an operation, so he might, never know. If I was the doctor.
Roar. The Prescott thing's even worse. Because the Senate did tell him, no, you can't do this. And then he went ahead and kept on doing it, kept on doing business with the Nazis. What a fucking piece of shit.
So thank you, Jerry Stahl, for treating us to another selection from your new book, 999, out very soon on Akashic Press. I can't wait. I've read it. I love it. Please thrill me again.
All right. This is a section about when I first get to Auschwitz, and you wait your whole life for this meaningful experience, but basically I have to piss so bad. That's all I can think about as I tear off the bus. Shouldn't I be dropping to my knees or keening? Probably. Instead, spotting the men's room off to the right in a long, low building, I bolt in and nearly kneecap myself on the edge of a wooden card table, behind which slouches the hard-eyed bathroom attendant in a ratty blue sweater, reading a newspaper. He stares up at me like I've interrupted a state dinner. As far as I can tell, the bathroom sector is the one booming industry in Poland. From my informal research, there isn't a single unmanned toilet in the country, but it takes a minute to suss out the protocol. Am I paying admission or is peeing free? And the idea is you tip on the way out. Either way, from what I can tell, it's the same business model as a bridge trolls. What you're paying for is the right to pass. After a moment, I realize I'm staring at the young toilet commandant, and he's staring back, glaring, like, just fucking ask me, asshole. How did I end up working at a death cramp crapper? What's it like to sell piss tickets to Holocaust tourists all day? What happens to people who don't pay? Is there perhaps a mini camp out back for men's room scofflaws? Only 60,000 out of 1.5 million survived this place. What goes through the toilet master's mind, staring from his station at the biggest crime scene in history? Just another day in the office, except the office is in Auschwitz? So many questions. Is he, I wonder, a fourth generation death camp crapper hand? Had his great grandfather sat where he's sitting, helping Reichsfuhrer SS Himmler piss when he came to visit Commandant Haas, whose wife and children kept a lovely garden on the other side of the wall? I start to ask, but just then a guy comes in behind me, tosses a coin in a glass bowl, not unlike the one that held Yumicles in Krakow, and edges by me without a glance. Finally, I go in too and find myself fatally pee shy. Of course, Alpha candy ass that I am. I still want to interview the attendant that I pay him again on the way out and try to strike up a conversation. So, how'd you get into the business? He doesn't answer, just scowls. Then a large man in a suede jacket strides in, sizes up the situation, and says something that sounds like Dupek as he squeezes by me. The two men snicker like I'm not there. Thus defeated and utterly shunned, I leave, still needing to pee. Does it mean anything to suffer if your suffering's voluntary? Is it helping any cause beyond bladder guilt and my own sweaty discomfort? Dupek, thank you, Google, translates as ass maggot.
Thank you, Jerry. I'm suddenly reminded of Hanover retrovirus. We're pretty out of our minds. Tim is sitting in a lawn chair in front of a palm tree relief, and somebody found really ugly granny porn from
right after World War II. It was probably like early 50s, like home camera. Yeah.
And Tim is ordering pink ladies cocktails, which I don't even know what that is. But anyway,
some 50s thing.
The absurdity of it all, again, is kind of the great leveler, because if we didn't have absurdity within the realm of the trauma zone, we would just turn to salt and convulse.
So this is post World War II.
Yes. It wasn't like hardcore pornography, but it was kind of like a swinger party, and it was a home movie.
It's a home movie. Nice.
A friend of mine,
like a Super 8 kind of
something like this. Yeah. A friend of mine had moved into a new apartment. Everything was empty, but like on the top shelf of a closet, way deep in the back, there was this reel, and he dumped it to video, and he is like showing his friends. I don't think the reel's even legal, because there's a scene at the end that one of the guys dresses up as Hitler, and I mean, like, what is even happening here? And it's just like, it's like something out of like John Waters, like kind of book some fat grannies in their fucking bras and like tiptoeing around, and
I'm just
giggling.
trying to do a freaking rock concert. That's all I'm saying. I'm just trying to have some fun. All I want to do is have some fun.
Well, that was our backstage entertainment. Did you go to any other place, any other camps besides Auschwitz?
I went to Dachau and Buchenwald.
Okay.
Yeah.
Buchenwald's that's Dachau's near Munich, but Buchenwald's, where's that? That's near Berlin. Where is that?
That's near Munich, I believe.
Oh, they're both there in Munich. Okay.
Yeah, I think I may have my geography completely wrong. And what impressed me most about all of them really was the death camp cafeterias. Just to see people chowing down on their strudel or pizza. There's like a little pizza place outside Auschwitz. And, people are just fucking murdering these shitty pizzas.
Yeah, right. Polish pizza is pretty rough. But when I went to Auschwitz, I was just kind of alarmed about all the cover up. I mean, so much of this stuff is actually just gone because they were trying to fucking hide it all. When the war was ending, they were trying to fucking cover it up, and because the original camp's still there, but the insane factory ones that were right next to it are all gone.
Some of them, there's a lot of controversy about that. Some people say they're recreated, and that the ovens are sort of Disney-fied versions of ovens. Then you look at like the claws, the claw marks on the wall, and you're wondering, well, did the Disney people do that?
Right. All the combs and hairbrushes and all that.
The 2 tons of hair. Yeah.
Yeah, that was insane. Yeah. What
pretty alarming.
Pretty alarming. I guess the thing that really stood out with me was because all the experiments that were done, it was like,
of course, yeah. Building 10. Yeah.
Yeah. People making people stand upright until they die, basically. Like, and they get electrocuted if they fall to one side.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
The room where you can't stand up, but you can't really lay down either. So, but they do that in Guantanamo. It's like, they learn from the best. So, it's in the grand tradition.
Oh, yeah.
Man's inhumanity to man is so shocking it no longer is, because again it just goes on, and there's you don't even need new methods of importing and expelling your own horror onto another individual, because we hear about it every day and now we're numb to it. Trapping people in steel factories, millions of refugees everywhere around the world, slow poisoning, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Let's get back to, so Jerry, you go to the camps, you do the experience and the experiment, you come back, you start to write the book 999. And how long did that take you? And what were you just kind of, I mean, you get back, what's your state of mind?
Not great. I came back and, I had notes like everywhere, back, how it is, the backs of fucking napkins, menus. I had this big pile. And, I come back and I let somebody stay at my place. I come back, it's a fucking wreck. So I do something I never do. I let like a friend's grandmother come and clean it up, And of course, the first thing she does is throw out this big pile of script. So all my notes are out the fucking window. And
that's a moment of sheer insanity. Then
that's a great moment. And then you're like, well, I have no memory, and now everything's gone. So this is going to be interesting. So you just write about the fact that you can't fucking write, and you kind of weave that into the narrative. And it took me a few years. There's a lot of fucked up shit happening, and I finally wrote it a couple of years later, 2, 3, 4 years later. Chronology is a little sketchy in like 4 hectic months.
But I know when you go in, you go deep into your projects. So when you're completely obsessed in a project, is it like this project only? I mean, obviously we have to support ourselves. So what are you doing? You have this project you want to finish. You don't know if you're going to be able to sell it, and you're probably not going to sell it for what it's worth, because that's what happens with great writers. Hello to all my dead favorites who never made money. So how is it difficult to be, I'm a professional juggler, so it's easy for me to be maneuvering many different things at once. But how is it to you, someone who goes so deep into a project when you're working at it? Can you work on other things at the same time?
Well, you kind of have to, kids to support and all that. And I had another project that was failing mightily as I was at Auschwitz. Somebody wanted to, I had written an earlier book called OG Dad that ABC bought sight unseen because they heard me on a podcast, not realizing it was a completely fucked up book. So I'd be, like an asshole. I'm like answering my phone as I stagger out of the oven at like Buchenwald, and I'm getting this message like, can you make Jerry less creepy? Like they're talking about me in the third person because it's so it was all, which is all in the book. And, it's like the more grotesque your life, the more material you'll have. So somehow that worked out.
Well, and Jerry, we're similar in a few ways. We're dissimilar in a lot of ways. We come together on certain plateaus, but one thing we both are is we are freaking creepy. And I consider that a badge of honor. It is the highest compliment I can give to anybody.
Well, it's that thing where somebody wants to make that thing, like it happens to everybody. Somebody wants to do a pilot of my like festive, happy, married life to a younger woman after it has like completely gone to shit. The kid's living in Austin, and I'm divorced. But for purposes of this show, I have to maintain this facade. And meanwhile, that's happening as I'm in a death camp, as I'm being like chastised because the book is like so fucking disturbing. It wasn't what they thought they bought. And in the end, I got paid 50 cents on the dollar not to write. So, it all worked out.
What was that really creepy? I loved this show. And actually, Weasel turned me on to it. If he's there, Tim, he's going to know what I'm talking about. It's Something and Petey. And it was Alan Alda, Louis C.K., Steve Buscemi. It was one of the darkest.
Oh, Louis C.K.'s, it was like a by subscription only show. Yeah.
I'm not sure, but Alan
Alda. You had to subscribe. Yeah, I think you had to subscribe, right?
Well, it doesn't matter. The thing is, it was one of the most darkest non-comedies taking place in a bar that's about to close. And Something and Petey, really great. And
I have no memory either. Yeah, that was great, but that's deliberately.
And you would think that the next person in line would be you for one of those.
Well, yeah, he wasn't doing it on ABC network television.
That's true.
Which
And,
was kind of my mistake. I went for the dough,
Well, look, I mean, Jerry, you surprised me because you had a good run on CS. You did write at the time. I'm going to say it. You did write at the time one of the most watched episodes in television history.
Sure, that'll be on my tombstone.
Well,
furries and plushies. Yeah.
When I get your ashes, I'll be sure to anoint myself with that very.
Was there a specific episode that was one of the most watched ones?
Yeah, it was one about plushies and furries, yeah, it was called Fur and Loathing. What can I say? Yeah, not my title. But it caused some of a controversy because, like an idiot, I confused plushies and furries. One's based on cartoon. One is based on real. So I insulted an entire fetish community, and they marched on like the CBS building, Black Rock, in New York.
Oh my God!
And I was the subject of much scorn in the furry plushie fetish world. Don't mention my name if you go to a furry party. That's all.
You know what? The last place you'll catch me is at a freaking furry or plushie party. I like real.
Well, you say that now.
I've said it forever. I'm not going to.
All right.
My opinion. Even you can't change my opinion of that. I just have to say.
That's where you draw the line. Too dirty.
Too stinky.
Yeah. I don't think Lydia likes, silly fetishes. Like,
thank you, Tim.
I think she likes a little more seriousness in the room.
Well, one man's silly is another man's.
That's true. Well, for her, I think that stuff's silly.
Yeah,
but
it is.
Hey, let's leave my fetishes alone for a minute. Thank you very much.
The show.
because really my deepest fetishes neither of you two freaking weirdos really know. Now, how about that?
Ooh, okay.
Oh, that's a tantalizing podcast for a later date, I suppose.
Well, Jerry, how did we meet? Because I think we met because Karen Finley suggested I needed to meet you.
I feel like we met when we went on tour with Hubert Selby, or did we know each other before then?
Well, I can't figure that out. I mean, I remember you coming to one of my performances when I was played in LA when I wasn't living there yet.
Yeah.
And then we met, and then I don't know. I decided I'm moving to LA because Selby was still alive and you were there. I just kind of forced myself upon you. And
yes.
we did go on some tours.
Yeah, down south, where speaking of fetishes, I'm sure Tim knows this. You're what's the word? Your enthusiasm for members of the police.
Oh, well, yes, Jerry was beside me while I was photographing cops eating donuts, cops and bike.
No, not only that, you just charmed the fucking pants off these guys. It was amazing. These like redneck fucking, and they loved you. I was very impressed.
Let me retell briefly. We were driving in a rented car. We were pulled over, not speeding, nothing on us.
Where is this?
Alligator Alley. Okay.
Florida.
Okay. Florida. Pulled over. James Faherty booking the tour. Pulled over by a bull, and we're like, hey, what's the problem, officer? I always, when I meet a cop, I'm always like, is there a problem, officer? And of course, I usually say I am, but they laugh. So he's like, no, you just look too cool for Alligator Alley. I said, well, we're poets. Always that's the word I use. We're poets. We have to look cool. We do stories about dominance and submission. Do you want to come to the show? He's like, I'm working. I'd love to. I'm like, okay. So he's just carry on. So Jerry knows what's coming. He's like, Lydia. No. I wait till he gets all the way back to his car. And they park. They pull up behind you, but kind of a good distance. It's all, and then I jump out and go, hey, officer, and make him walk all the way back, which he does. And I'm like, can I please take your picture? I take pictures of people that help people. And I still have that photo, Jerry.
Oh, wow.
I'd love to see that.
Oh, yeah. He's hot. Officer friendly, I called him. Yeah.
They're all officer friendly.
Well, to me, they are. I mean, Tim's seen it in full action.
Well, I've seen full action.
Oh,
I've seen all types of stuff.
He's seen me make them cry. I was gentle on the Floridians.
Yeah, you were, but I was impressed. I mean, I do not call back cops back to the car once they once they exit.
Oh, boy.
Well, I gotta get my yayas out.
No, yeah.
I just had to run in. I just had to run with some cops in East Texas on the Louisiana border, and the cop cars there, bigger than it's saying police. It was in God we trust was the biggest thing was on the cop car.
Oh,
and
oh my God.
And so what happened I was touring with Weasel and this guy Rick I and this woman China Bootleg, Stephanie is her name. She's like an insane performer. So she's basically looks like she's been in 5 car accidents. She's just covered in bruises.
Oh, not again.
And she's basically just wearing a bra and it's really hot. And this frat boy comes up to us. And he's standing about like 6 inches from my face and he's silent. I'm like, what? Where is this going? Is he gonna pull out a gun? I was like, what's up? And he goes, oh, I'm from Fort Worth. Where's the party? He thought I was trying to pimp Stephanie out at the gas station.
Oh,
yeah. Well, I said, no, we're musicians. He goes, what? He goes, what do you play? I go, rock. And then he's like, you're kidding me. This is what I was so thrown off. This is what it dawned on me later. It was a fucking undercover cop, and it made no sense. The guy's acting was too bad. It was too just clean cut.
Well,
and that police, that local police is corrupt. They have a fucking whorehouse down the fucking street.
Okay, but
they thought I was stamping their ground.
Tim, I've told you. I've tried to tell you. You got to kind of watch what kind of crust you're driving with. Just saying.
Trust me, I've learned the hard way.
I'm just saying. I can blend in even with the boys.
Well, there's that one time where Lydia was doing a spoken word in Worcester, Massachusetts, and it's Friday night, and cops are pulling everyone over, and Lydia's doing her Lydia thing.
Feet out the window.
Not
drinking, maybe
a little wine. Some rules being broken. All right, and I was like, oh my God, we're gonna get pulled over. And my buddy goes, Lydia's arrogance was so hot and so high, she created a force field, and the cops were not going to even go there. He goes, the only way you get pulled over, Tim, is if you were wearing no shirt.
Anyway, that's what we do for fun, Jerry. Just saying.
It's power, a lot of power.
I just want to once again announce that Jerry Stahl's new book, 999. What's the subtitle of it, Jerry?
That's a very good question. One man's tale of depression, psychic torment, and a bus tour of the Holocaust.
There we go. Is out soon on Akashic Books.
Yeah, when's it come out exactly?
July 5th.
All right. Well, congratulations. I mean, do you feel when you work this long and this hard on a book, do you kind of like the weight's off your shoulders and you're kind of looking forward, or do you soak in? I mean, what's the post party about feeling like?
Or is it postpartum?
Yeah, postpartum.
The postpartum party. It's that weird thing where you're like totally done, on to the next thing, but now you got to pimp it. So you got to like talk about it nonstop.
All right.
So you're like looking forward, but thinking backward at the same time, which is a great problem to have. I'm not complaining. But that's kind of the process. I mean, I'm already on to the next fucking couple of things.
Totally.
Because how could you not be, Jerry? Because as you said earlier, the only thing worse than writing is not writing, because you need to be writing. I myself have also got to recommend one of my favorite books of yours, I, Fatty, which is just so beautifully written about Fatty Arbuckle. It's just fantastic. And that's just I, Fatty, 999, absolute really brilliant books. And I thank you very much for just amusing me, being my friend, and telling it like it is, and saying the things that most other men would not fucking say, even with a gun to their head.
Well, thank you. We're trying to turn I, Fatty into a movie, even as we speak, but you know how that goes. We'll see.
Well, good luck with that.
Thank you.
I'll buy the first ticket. Or if you need me to put some pressure on somebody, I could be very persuasive.
I might need you to lean on a couple people. So thank you.
You know what? I can lean gently, or we could do it the easy way, or we could do it the Lydian way. It's not a problem. You know me. I love to manipulate.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you so much, Jerry Stahl.
Bye-bye.
Nice accent.
Yeah.